The sun of Zarithia shimmered across the floating towers of the capital city, casting reflections on the energy fields that surrounded each platform like delicate glass. Captain Marcus Kane, a human soldier from Earth, stepped down from his ship onto the smooth landing deck. His boots clanged softly against the metal, but the sound was swallowed by the hum of alien energy flowing through the city. The human's mission had been simple on paper: assist in a diplomatic inspection and assess the planetary defenses. In reality, Marcus knew it would be far more complicated. He adjusted the straps of his combat armor, feeling the familiar weight and protection it gave him. On Earth, this suit was standard issue, but on Zarithia, it made him seem like a fortress walking on two legs. Alien guards, tall and slender with glimmering skin that reflected light, eyed him curiously. They had never seen a human this disciplined, this armored, and this unflinching. Marcus did not care about the stairs. He was here for a job. The palace itself rose like a crystal mountain from the central platform. Energy currents ran up the towers, making the building appear alive. Humans would have called it beautiful. Zarithians would have called it necessary. Marcus had learned early that on this planet, beauty often hid danger. He was met at the palace gates by a group of Zarithian officials who spoke in high-pitched tones, their words sharp and melodic. Marcus did not understand the language fully, but their gestures made it clear they wanted him to follow. They led him through wide halls where light floated in streams rather than bulbs. Statues of past rulers leaned in impossible angles, defying gravity. Marcus kept his helmet off as requested to show he came in peace. Finally, he arrived at a vast chamber where the council gathered. Sitting at the far end, surrounded by advisors and guards, was Princess Lyria. Her presence was immediate. She did not stand, but the air seemed to bow slightly around her. Her hair shimmered silver, and her eyes, large and glowing faintly, were both beautiful and intimidating. Even from a distance, Marcus could tell she was calculating, measuring, thinking. She looked like someone who had spent her entire life commanding attention and obedience. The council members whispered as he entered, their voices like wind through crystal. Marcus kept his posture straight and steady, knowing this first impression mattered. Captain Kane, one of the advisors, spoke through a translator device. "The princess has requested your presence specifically." Marcus inclined his head. "I am here to assist in any way necessary." A ripple went through the council as Princess Lyria rose from her seat, walking toward him with measured steps. Her gown floated behind her in the air currents, seemingly weightless. Marcus noticed that despite her elegance, she carried herself like a warrior. There was a sharpness in her gaze, the kind that could cut through lies and see the truth of a man's character. "You are a human," she said finally, her voice melodic but firm. "We have had many reports of your kind. Brave, yes, but unpredictable. Terrifying, even." She stopped a few meters away from him and studied his armored form. "Yet you walk into my palace with all this protection." Marcus kept his voice even. "It is standard armor. I trust that my actions speak more than my appearance." Princess Lyria's lips curved slightly. "We shall see." She gestured toward the middle of the chamber. "Remove your armor." Marcus froze. This was unexpected. In his experience, alien leaders often demanded tests of loyalty, skill, or intellect, but never something that exposed vulnerability so directly. Removing his armor in front of the princess and her council would leave him exposed, literally and figuratively. "I am to remove it here?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. "Yes," she said, her eyes unwavering. "Do not make this a test of defiance. This is a test of trust and strength." "Can a human soldier show strength without the trappings of his weapons and armor?" Marcus looked at the council. Some leaned forward, curiosity in their posture. Some seemed skeptical, their glowing skin flickering in shades of doubt. He understood what the test really was. They expected him to refuse or fail, to show weakness. He nodded slowly. "If trust is what you seek, then I will comply." The chamber went silent as he began to unbuckle the armor. Each piece removed revealed not weakness but control. His movements were precise, disciplined. He placed each segment carefully to the side, never turning his back to the princess or the council. When the final piece fell away, Marcus stood there in simple clothing underneath. Functional but unremarkable. Princess Lyria's eyes widened slightly. Shock, mingled with curiosity, passed over her face. Here was a human, unarmored, vulnerable to their eyes, yet standing as if he owned the room. Not a tremor in his posture, not a hint of fear. "You are not what I expected, she said softly, almost to herself. Marcus inclined his head. Strength is not always in armor, Princess. Sometimes it is in the mind, the discipline, the will. A murmur passed through the council. Some whispered in their melodic language, others simply stared. The princess stepped closer, studying him. She could not deny it. The human soldier radiated a kind of confidence she had never seen before. Not arrogance, but calm, absolute certainty in himself and his actions. You are fearless, she admitted, but it is different from our fearlessness. Humans hold it in their bodies, in their minds, and it flows outward. Marcus considered her words. Fear is natural. How one responds defines character. Princess Lyria's hand moved subtly as if tracing an invisible line in the air. We value control, precision, and obedience. Yet humans are something else entirely. We do not know what to make of it. Just then an alarm rang through the palace, high-pitched and urgent. The floating city's energy fields flickered. A breach had been detected in one of the lower energy conduits. The council reacted quickly, some rushing to monitors, others gesturing sharply. Princess Lyria's gaze returned to Marcus. And yet, she said, I wonder if your kind can act when chaos rises, not merely stand still in it. Marcus responded instinctively. I am ready to act if needed. She studied him for a long moment before nodding slightly. Very well. Follow me. She led him through corridors that curved and twisted impossibly, the walls lined with glowing panels displaying the city's energy networks. As they reached the source of the alarm, Marcus understood the seriousness of the situation. A critical energy conduit, one that powered several floating platforms, was unstable. If it failed, parts of the city could collapse. The alien technicians worked frantically, their delicate appendages glowing as they manipulated the energy streams. Marcus observed quickly. The system was complex, unlike anything on Earth, but patterns were patterns. He could see where a human approach could complement their efforts. Step here, one technician said, pointing to a control interface. It looked almost like a holographic lattice. Marcus hesitated for a heartbeat, but then placed his hands on it. He was guided remotely by the technician's instructions, but instinctively adjusted, recognizing flow patterns and energy spikes. Princess Lyria watched silently. He worked quickly, calmly, and without panic. His human intuition, combined with logical assessment, allowed him to stabilize part of the conduit temporarily. The council members whispered among themselves. Marcus could feel the tension in the room shift. Where there had been doubt, now there was recognition. Humans, despite their primitive appearance, could perform acts of bravery and ingenuity even in unfamiliar systems. When the immediate crisis passed, Princess Lyria turned to Marcus. Her face was unreadable at first, then softened slightly. You are not what I expected, she repeated. This time there was admiration in her tone. Your mind, your judgment, your courage. It is unlike anything we have seen from your kind. Marcus straightened. I am glad to be of help. Strength can come from many sources, Princess. Sometimes it is in armor, sometimes in ideas, and sometimes in willingness to act when others hesitate. The princess studied him for a long moment. She had expected humans to be loud, aggressive, unpredictable. Instead, here was a man calm under pressure, disciplined, and surprisingly insightful. Shock and curiosity mixed in her expression. You have surprised me, she admitted. Most humans are wild. You are controlled, deliberate. I do not know if I respect or fear you more. Marcus smiled faintly. Perhaps it is not necessary to choose. Sometimes respect and trust are enough. A final murmur passed through the council. Princess Lyria stepped back slightly as if she needed space to process. Marcus had passed the first test, not of strength with weapons, but of character. He had shown that a human soldier could be more than a machine of war. He could be a leader, a partner, and in ways the princess was only beginning to understand, someone worth watching closely. As they left the chamber, the floating city's sun dipped lower, casting long golden shadows across the towers. Princess Lyria walked beside him, silent for now, still processing the unexpected revelation that humans could be brave in ways her people had never considered. Marcus adjusted his simple uniform, aware of the eyes that still followed him. He did not feel fear, only anticipation. Tomorrow, he knew, would bring new tests. But for tonight he had already made an impression that could not be ignored. And Princess Lyria, she was left in shock, a rare emotion for someone trained all her life to anticipate everything. For the first time, she wondered if perhaps humans were not merely unpredying. The floating city of Zarithia had settled into a calm rhythm after the day's earlier alarm, but the atmosphere in the palace remained tense. Princess Lyria walked alongside Captain Marcus Kane through corridors that twisted in impossible angles, her mind still wrestling with what she had witnessed. The human soldier had not only obeyed her unusual command to remove his armor, but had also stabilized a failing energy conduit that could have threatened half the city. His calmness, intelligence, and courage lingered in her thoughts like an uninvited but compelling melody. The council reconvened to discuss the events. Advisors murmured among themselves, debating whether humans were truly capable of loyalty and wisdom, or if Marcus was an exception. Lyria, usually decisive and commanding, found herself unusually uncertain. She had underestimated this human. "Princess," one advisor said, stepping forward, "we should proceed cautiously. While the human demonstrated skill, his kind is unpredictable. Can we trust such unpredictability in the future?" Lyria's gaze swept across the room, her eyes settling on Marcus. "Trust," she said quietly, almost to herself, "is not given because one is predictable. It is earned by one's actions." Marcus nodded respectfully. "I understand your caution, Princess, but actions often speak louder than appearances or words." She studied him for a moment longer before turning toward the council. "We will observe him further. Let him demonstrate what his kind can truly offer." Later that day, Marcus was guided to the palace's training arena, a vast open space suspended over the energy currents that powered the city. It was a place for testing combat skills, strategy, and endurance, and for Lyria, it was a way to measure Marcus beyond the initial impression. She followed silently, her advisors and guards trailing behind, curious about how he would perform. The first challenge was simple in concept, but dangerous in execution. Several automated defense drones had been programmed to move unpredictably, their sensors capable of triggering simulated attacks. The goal was to navigate the arena, deactivate the drones, and reach a central platform. Marcus observed carefully before moving. Unlike the aliens who relied heavily on their superior speed and reflexes, he relied on observation, anticipation, and strategy. He studied the drone's patterns, noting slight irregularities, then moved with precision, avoiding their paths while disabling the mechanisms one by one. Princess Lyria watched, astonished. His movements were deliberate yet fluid, combining human ingenuity with discipline. By the time Marcus reached the central platform, not a single drone remained active. The princess stepped forward, her eyes shining with a mixture of admiration and disbelief. "You do not fight like your species is described," she said. "You are calculated, patient, intelligent. Even in this test, you show leadership." Marcus shrugged slightly. "Adaptation is part of survival, Princess. Strength is not just physical. It is the ability to respond to new challenges with the tools and knowledge available." The next test involved technology integration. Lyria led him to a chamber filled with complex alien devices. Some appeared ceremonial, others functional, but all operated on principles Marcus had never encountered. The challenge was to operate the devices in coordination to maintain stability in the city's energy field. Marcus approached cautiously, asking questions, observing, and testing theories. His human reasoning allowed him to see connections the aliens had overlooked. Where they relied on instinct and tradition, he applied logic and improvisation. Slowly, the energy field stabilized, with Marcus guiding the technicians and even improving efficiency in some areas. The council watched silently, their murmurs replaced by stunned silence. Marcus was proving something unprecedented, that humans, despite lacking the advanced technology of Zarithians, could bring new solutions, new perspectives, and extraordinary courage to alien challenges. Princess Lyria, who had always valued strength and tradition, felt her understanding of power shift. This human soldier, standing calmly in the heart of her palace, was rewriting everything she thought she knew about courage and capability. Then the true test came. An urgent alarm blared, louder and more insistent than before. A sabotage attempt had been detected near the city's outer platforms. A rogue faction had breached the energy shields, intending to collapse part of the city and create chaos. The council panicked. Lyria turned to Marcus, her expression tense. "We do not know the full extent of their plan. Can you help us?" Marcus did not hesitate. I will do what I can. The princess gave a sharp nod, and together they entered the command chamber overlooking the city's outer platforms. Alien engineers worked frantically, but their unfamiliarity with human problem-solving created delays. Marcus quickly assessed the situation. Shields were failing in specific patterns, and the saboteurs exploited timing windows that the aliens could not predict. Redirect power here, Marcus instructed, pointing to a control interface. Use this sequence to stabilize the shield temporarily. Then focus on isolating the breach without collapsing other systems. The engineers followed, guided by his calm, authoritative tone. Marcus coordinated humans and aliens alike, adjusting timing and strategy on the fly. The saboteurs attempted to adapt, but Marcus anticipated their moves, guiding the shields to counter each intrusion. Princess Lyria watched closely. She had seen bravery before, but nothing like this. Marcus did not wield overwhelming technology or superior numbers. He relied on courage, observation, and swift, intelligent action. His presence alone inspired the others to act with focus and confidence. After tense minutes that felt like hours, the sabotage was contained. The outer platform stabilized and the saboteurs retreated, unable to breach the city's defenses. The council erupted in murmurs of approval, some astonished at the humans' performance, others relieved at the city's survival. Princess Lyria approached Marcus, her usual composed expression softened. You have done more than I expected. You faced danger, coordinated others, and acted decisively where we might have faltered. Marcus shook his head slightly. I only did what any soldier would do in my place, Princess. I acted because hesitation would have cost lives. Fear and doubt do not stop disasters. Action does, Lyria's eyes glimmered. She saw the difference clearly now. Humans were unpredictable not because they were reckless, but because their courage and ingenuity often surpassed expectation. They could act where others hesitated, adapt where others failed, and inspire where others despaired. The princess gestured for the council to step back. She turned to Marcus fully, studying him with newfound respect. I underestimated your kind, she admitted. I expected recklessness, unpredictability, and chaos. What I did not expect was this. She gestured toward him, encompassing his calm strength, his command presence, and the quiet confidence that seemed to radiate from him. Marcus inclined his head. You see that human strength is not measured by armor or weapons alone. It is measured by action, courage, and the willingness to face the unknown. Lyria nodded slowly. You have earned my trust. More than that. You have earned my admiration. She paused, considering her next words carefully. Your kind may yet become allies, not threats. I see now that humans possess qualities my people have seldom witnessed firsthand. Courage, ingenuity, and loyalty in equal measure. The council murmured, their uncertainty giving way to consideration. Lyria had spoken, and the princess's judgment carried authority. Marcus had shifted not only their perception of him but of his entire species. As the sun set over the floating city, casting golden reflections on the towers and energy fields, Marcus and Princess Lyria walked together along the observation deck. The breeze was light, but it carried the weight of unspoken thoughts and mutual understanding. You surprised me, Lyria said finally, breaking the silence. Not because of your skill alone, but because of what you represent. Humans are capable of extraordinary courage and honor. Marcus smiled faintly. It seems we both learned something today, Princess. You learned that humans are more than you expected. And I learned that alien societies value courage and trust in ways similar to our own. Lyria's expression softened, and for the first time she allowed herself a rare smile. Perhaps there is more in common between our species than I thought. I will admit, I am eager to see what else you can do. Marcus's gaze turned outward toward the city below. The energy fields glimmered like liquid light. Platforms floated in harmony and people moved through the city with purpose. He understood that this was only the beginning. Humans and Xerithians had much to learn from one another, and the bridges of trust were just beginning to form. You have changed my perception, Lyria said softly, and perhaps in doing so you have changed the future of this city. Marcus nodded. I hope so, Princess. That is always the goal, to leave the world better than we found it. The two of them stood side by side, gazing at the horizon, the sky ablaze with colors of dusk. In that moment, the princess realized that human courage was not only formidable in battle, but inspiring in spirit. And Marcus understood that trust and respect could be built across species, even in the most alien of worlds. The night settled over Zarithia, calm, but full of potential. The princess had been left in shock once more, not from fear but from revelation. Humans, she now knew, were unpredictable not in recklessness but in the depth of their courage, intellect,